Hey, you guys, it is time for another discussion sort of thing here. Of course, this one was expected. Well, maybe if you guys even can remember back to the end of last year. I know I certainly can't. But last year, I did a sort of year in review. I just talked about what happened in the industry that year with every brand, every major brand that is that I have on my shelf, which is behind the camera. And yeah, I just thought that I would do that again this year. That was sort of the plan to make this the whole special. I used to do end of the year collection tours, but that makes more sense to do on National Ceiling Fan Day when more people are likely to watch it because that takes like 2 or 3 hours to film every year, and I'm always losing my voice by the end of it. So I'd rather just be rewarded a little bit more for almost losing my voice. But anyways, I should probably shut up because I got a lot of brands to get through here. Not as many this year though. There's a lot less to talk about because this year not only have my personal matters been totally out of order and absolutely horrible and torturous, but the industry, honestly, it's been a pretty dumpy year all around, honestly. We've got one or two brands that just don't, well, mostly, yeah, two brands that just don't exist anymore. We've got a few brands that have stopped print, some of them permanently, other ones temporarily. And then just a group of intros where there's only a couple brands that really, really stuck out really good. So, anyways, let's hop right into this. First brand I would like to talk about is Big Ass Fans. Now, Big Ass Fans did mostly one special thing for this year, and to be honest, it was a pretty good thing. We needed it. It was the haiku in brass, or as I believe they called it gold, but it's same. No, not same thing. Okay, the topic for another day. But the sort of brass gold tones are really popular, and the haiku and that finish looks gorgeous. So can't really complain. They did good. Big Ass Fans isn't one of those brands that drops 20 new products every year. No, they refine what they've got and they keep improving. And for that, I will always respect them. Next up, Canarm. Canarm introduced, I want to say like 5 or 6 new fans this year. Nothing, too extremely spectacular, just pretty average lineup. There were a couple designs I liked. The Ezra, which was I believe like a 68-inch like 8 or 12 blade fan, that one was kind of cool. I really liked the design of that. Some of their lighting and their other designs were pretty good this year too. The next up is Caro. Now, Caro, every year their line just seems to double and double and double, and so does the length of their catalog. They've just got a bunch of really, really great products. Caro Home, they're terrific. I definitely would recommend checking them out. They've got tons of designs, and what I really like about them is they've got variety, but then similar designs with slight tweaks. If you want something just really specific, it's honestly a lot easier to find there because, they've got a plethora of more similar designs just with a few things slightly altered. And I think that is great because they also do offer much more of a wide range too. So you're not being totally limited, but at the same time, if you want to be limited, then you're good. You can get whatever you want from them, and they've got a great collection of products. A lot of DC pull chain things I've noticed in their line this year. Just overall a great line. Up next is Craftmade. Craftmade this year changed the format of their catalog. Now the last time that a Craftmade catalog featured lighting and other things alongside of it, well, technically it was 2014, even though by then they only showed small parts of the line. 2011 was the last, or 2012 I think it was when they had a bunch of lighting in the back of their book and the doorbells and chimes and all that. And this year, 2023, was the year that they once again went back, combined everything into one 500-page catalog. On top of that, they introduced a bunch of new designs, not just in January, but in June. And then also, there's a few other new products now that show up on the Lighting New York website that isn't on the Craftmade website itself. But yeah, there's probably been about 40 or 50 new fans coming out from them, and I'm serious. They have really been impressing me. Of course, it is always important, quality over quantity. However, I do feel like there were a few really, really good designs, and I can't say I'm disappointed by the quality of their products. They certainly are not at the top of the, sort of the range. I would give that to Fanimation or Hinckley, but they are great, and I'm really, really liking what they're doing, and I hope they continue what they're doing. So next up on my list is Dance Fan City. They actually released some new products this year, and apparently there's supposed to be a catalog. I'm recording this in mid-November because at this point in the year, nothing really happens. Saying that, watch this, all of a sudden 5 major fan companies are going to go out of business. No, I'm kidding. But anyways, yeah, they actually have released a few new products, and they're saying there's going to be a catalog in a few weeks as of me recording this. So that's really, really exciting. I really do like what they do. And there's a few people who aren't always the biggest fans of Gulf Coast and all that sort of stuff, but I think their products are really good. And I've been noticing that it's the Tropos airline that's been getting a lot of stuff. The last Gulf Coast fan was the Coastal Air, and that was, gosh, that was back in like 2019 or 2018, somewhere around there now. Anyways, now let's take a moment and remember Emerson, who is no longer with us because Luminance bought them and then proceeded to screw themselves. Actually, there was some investor that screwed them. I don't know. Honestly, all I know is that we lost one great company and one formerly great company. Really sad, but, we're moving on. We're figuring it out. Next up is Fanimation. Now, Fanimation always has a good line. I love the quality of their products. This year, in terms of design, there was 0 new designs, actually, because the Pyramid is just a showroom version of the Pyramid fan that they already had in the studio collection. They added brass to the wrap, which it was needed. Gotta love the brass. And then they also added a coastal version of the Tri-Air. So no actually new designs, just improvements to previous products, which is not a bad thing, And the reason why a lot of brands, I think, are doing this year, it's a really slow year with, housing prices and all that stuff. Construction is down, and, that's a lot of business for these companies. So really this year, they're really targeting towards remodelers, and that is why you're going to be seeing a lot of that's why this year a bunch of brands introduced so many different hugger and flush mount designs, especially Monte Carlo or now Visual Comfort, whoever the heck they are. They did a lot of that. Anyways, moving on to our next brand, that is Home Enhancements. Now, Home Enhancements is a name that not as many people, I'm sure, would recognize, and they're based out of Texas. They got a decent line, and it's growing. I actually just noticed some new products on their website the other day. And I'm noticing the quality not only of the photos, but just of the products themselves. It looks to be really increasing. And I'm really liking some of these designs. They've got brass in the line now. They've got some really great designs. And while I certainly cannot place them anywhere near the top, they might be an up-and-coming thing that we got to, keep an eye on. I would definitely recommend, checking them out. Maybe checking back in every year or two, see what sort of new stuff they've got going on. Because I have not really been disappointed by anything. A lot of the designs looked really good, and that's one of the things I really do look out for. And the next brand, Hunter. Ooh, yay. Hunter decided this year that they were going to take their old catalog format, which honestly I didn't actually think was terrible for once, and then they proceeded to make it worse. I don't know. I'm just not a fan of having to squint at really, really tiny pictures of the fans. And then, over half the catalog is now lighting, which isn't a bad thing necessarily. As much as I love fans, I have to appreciate just the lighting part of this industry too, because there's some wonderful designs out there. And a lot of the designs are not really that terrible. And I think the quality on them is probably fairly decent, as far as lighting goes, on par with some other, more mid-range brands. As far as the fans go, as per usual, they always introduced a bunch of designs. None of them really stuck out to me. Most of the time they don't. They oftentimes follow a similar frame. I feel like now I've seen one Hunter. I've seen them all. I would really love to see some more expansion. And then, of course, this year, Casablanca has been condensed down to 10 pages. 10 whole pages of what used to be one of the best fan companies in the biz. Kind of sad, not really happy about it. But hey, what am I going to do? I'm not in charge of these companies. I don't know what's going to happen with Casablanca. I do not know whether they're going to the name's just going to go away eventually. I've been noticing a lot of Casablanca fans get renamed or just moved over to the Hunter side of the website. So, yeah, I don't really know what's going to happen in the future there, but definitely something we want to keep an eye out on, see what changes. Up next is Kendall. Now, Kendall this year introduced a selection of some new designs, which I actually kind of liked. There were a few designs that really stuck out to me there that I was impressed with. And it appears that now over June, they have been introducing some new lamps and new lighting designs as well, revamping their product line. So I'm very excited for next year because I think next year there's going to be a new catalog, probably a full line one with a bunch of new stuff. I'm just really excited. I heard, a couple years ago, Kendall was sort of finding their way through kind of a harder time or something. I don't know whether that's the case. I can't really say. But what I do know is the fact that right now I'm really liking where they're sitting, and I hope that they will continue to improve on that. Now, up next, we have Kichler. Kichler this year decided to release a supplement with just a bunch of new size variations to existing products, and then also just a couple new finishes. And then in the fall of this year, they introduced a few new designs, which were pretty good. One of them was pretty similar to what they already did before, and that was that Palm fan, whatever the heck that thing was called, the Nani, I think it was called. And then the Breda, which was their sort of larger fan, had like 12 or 8 blades, something like that. Just another take on, large scale fan design that everyone seems to be doing these days. And then the Almer, which is pretty darn similar to the Oxygen Strato. I think it's cool looking, but, I like the Oxygen a lot better. But overall, not a horrible year, just nothing that really stuck out to me. And now this year, we've got a new name to add to the list. Replacing the Emerson name is Cusco. And Cusco has been doing lighting for a while. Well, I should say Cusco, Allura Mood, and Allura. All three of those are in one. If you didn't know, they're just different lines, same company. And now this year they decide to introduce fans. And let me put it this way, the designs are really good. And I think they're actually going to expand it too. I don't think they're just going to have that range of like 10 designs that they've got right now. I think they're going to keep adding more. And that's great. And of course, as always, their lighting is on point. The quality of these products seems to be pretty good. I know Cole over at Vintage Fans and More seemed pretty impressed. And I'm sure at some point he will be bringing some of their fans in. It's only a speculation. This is a speculation. I'm not in talks with him. The only time I ever, have exchanged any words is via YouTube comments, and that's not very often. But I'm really, really hoping that I'm sure he will. He loves Cusco, and I think he does talk to them. So hopefully we can get someone in the collector community besides Cole, or, I think that would be really great, for some people to take a look at these products, because I've not seen any of them in person. I think the only people who really have in the collector community are people who have been out to Lightovation. So, I'd love to hear your feedback on what you think of those. And hopefully Cole or somebody else will be bringing something from them in, whether it's a, sort of like a sponsorship or they actually bought the product. I don't know. I would just love to see them get some representation because their lighting designs are always on point, and I think the fans are doing the same, and I think they will continue to do the same. Now, up next, let's talk about, don't mind me if you see me looking off. I'm just looking off at my shelf. I positioned myself this side so I can stare at my shelf because I've got too many brands to memorize, dude. I haven't done that much with fans even this year, so it's just all really hard for me to remember. But the next brand I want to talk about is Matthews. Now, I believe they did introduce a new, no, I think they introduced that last year. Matthews introduced the Non and the Non XL. I think it was last year. It was just another 3-blade cylinder design, quite like what we've seen a lot of. However, they finally released a new catalog, first one since I want to say 2020. Very, very happy to see that, They've condensed a few products out of the line that just weren't really doing too well. And now I think what they've got is just a really great selection. And, the quality is always excellent on them. While some of the designs are similar, there's something really striking about each and every product that they release. And I'm definitely impressed. Up next, we have Maxim. Maxim, once again, has decided to delve a little bit more into the standard ceiling fan range with a few new products like, I think, the Daisy and the Lowell. And then there also were, I believe, a couple new additions to the Tanker line and to the Trio as well. And then, of course, the Darling, and I believe there was like the Portcullis Fandelier, or whatever they call them. Fandelites. That's what Maxim calls them. They call them Fandelites. And then I think they also added a larger version of the, there's another one. It's that Rattan fan, which is really, really cool as well. So yeah, overall they've introduced quite a few fan products this year, and I'm really impressed. And of course, Maxim lighting never really misses for me. That's one of my favorite lines when it comes to lighting. The quality is good, and they know what they're talking about too. They really do know their stuff. Up next, let's talk about Minka. Minka was probably one of my favorite releases for this year with fans, like the Future and the Deco were a couple of my, all-time favorites, and the Bowie, and another one of those very cool ribbon sort of designs that we're seeing more and more of these days. I think they did really, really good. I think there were some amazing looking products there. And, just overall a great line still. The quality on those usually is pretty good. I do hear a couple small complaints here and there, but I think everybody gets complaints. Overall, I would say Minka is one of the top brands right now, just as far as my choices would go. And up next, the Modern Fan Company. They have released 4 new products this year. They have a downrod and a hugger fan, both, in similar design ranges. I'm spacing on the name now. And then they also had a design, the Nuvo, which was kind of similar in sort of style to the Leather Lux. It just wasn't leather, and it was 4 blades. And then they also had another IC fan. I think it was called the Breeza or something like that, which was super, super cool. So yeah, overall, a really great, selection of new products. When I first saw that, I was just stunned. I loved it. I love the incorporation of brass into the line. I sort of figured they'd do something like that. They are just so good at, capturing some trends, but not going totally overboard with it. The line that they've got is good. It's simple. And, with some of these new introductions, I noticed the simplicity slightly, waning. However, that doesn't mean bad at all. I think what they're doing is terrific. I'm really impressed with their designs, and I hope they keep going with what they're doing. And up next, oh God, these guys, honestly, I think they might get, I think they deserve my number 1 pick for intro, of this entire year. And that is Modern Forms, and the number 1, I think you know what it is. It's the Aura frickin' floating fan blades. Well, not actually floating, but they look like it. And that's cool. It's just, they've always had a great line. The quality is great. The price points on some of their fans are also really, really good. And like I said, quality was good. The LEDs, WAC has great LEDs. And, I want a reliable LED. I don't want to have it go bad and be replaced. I've got one of those Bell & Howell socket fans downstairs. And while the light on mine hasn't gone dead, I hear a lot of other people complaining about that. And because of that, I'm using that light very, very sparingly just because I don't want it to go bad. So, yeah, but you don't have to worry about that with Modern Forms. Their LEDs are great. Overall, their quality is just amazing. Their designs get better and better every year. I am so, so excited to see what they continue to do. And next up, Visual Comfort, aka Monte Carlo. This year they didn't introduce any new designs. They mostly just added on to their continuing line, and that's a theme that I've really been noticing with this year. They introduced a few hugger variations to already existing products, and then they also added a few other finishes, and they actually might have added 1 or 2 new sort of different designs. Nothing too spectacular. One of them was kind of similar to the Emerson Curva, which obviously we now no longer have access to. But yeah, overall, I felt like this was just a, sort of a, it was a decent intro. The products are actually not the worst of quality. I really think, Visual Comfort, a lot of that stuff is expensive. I think they're slowly clearing out all the crap, the really cheap stuff. Like a lot of the old Seagull line, I'm noticing they're starting to clear, and some of the old Monte Carlos they're starting to clear. So I really think they're trying to bring that brand up a notch and actually make it really high quality. And even though it's been a real bumpy ride to get where they are right now, I really have faith in what Visual Comfort is doing. And I think that line is going to continue to improve even more so now. So I'm very, very pleased to say that, because I would like to see those designs continue, because a lot of those Monte Carlo / Visual Comfort designs over the last couple of years have really been impressing me. I've really, really been liking them. And same goes for the lighting. So I say they should keep doing what they're doing. And up next is Progress. Finally, we have another full catalog. First one since 2020. Of course, that's pretty standard. It takes a few years for them to release those. That's just how they always do it. And on top of all the, the full line catalog, they reformatted the catalogs as well, new layouts and new products galore. Tons of impressive stuff from Progress this year. I can't even begin to mention, just a couple favorites because I've just got so many. But if I had to name drop a couple, well, one in particular that I really liked was the Tompkins. I just thought that was a really great design. And if you're not sure which one that one is, that is a 5-blade fan in either, I believe it's black or a brushed nickel. And it's got sort of like a hammered dome or bowl on the bottom of it. I just think it looks really, really good. I really like that design, and I think it turned out great. And of course, a lot of the other new products this year are also terrific. So if you haven't checked those out, definitely go ahead and do that. Up next, we have Quoizel. I believe Quoizel introduced a few new Fandeliers to the line this year, if I remember correct. Nothing too spectacular, Some people still absolutely freak out over Fandeliers and get so excited. It's just, I've seen them now, so the real excitement factor for me is gone. I'm not denying that I'm not saying they're bad products. I'm just saying, the excitement factor for those is kind of, left for me until some grand new scheme comes up from some company. I just feel like right now all Fandeliers are just sort of in that same place for me. They're cool. It's just that excitement factor, is gone. Still a couple great new designs this year, and I'm sure they're going to continue doing that. Up next, Quorum and Oxygen. These guys, for an all-around product lineup and introduction, I have to give Quorum my number one pick, and Quorum and Oxygen, of course. The Strato fan, we all saw Cole's review for that, hopefully. If you haven't, go check it out. Vintage Fans and More, you'll see the review for the Oxygen Strato. That is an amazing design. I fell in love with it. Super, super cool. Just love, love, love. The Oxygen line they didn't do much last year. And then this year they came back with a few great designs. And then midway through the year, they introduced a whole another plethora and a new full line catalog, which hopefully will be printed next year so I can get a hold of that. But yeah, overall, I'm really, really loving what the Oxygen line is doing. And then, of course, the Quorum line, as always, is introducing some great designs. The Revel, I just fell in love with. As soon as I saw that on the cover, I just fell in love. And their other designs for this year as well were also really impressive. I'm just seriously loving what Quorum and Oxygen are doing. Probably one of my favorite brands right now, just in terms of designs. And the quality is good, too. I've got an old Quorum fan in my room, and it's probably been the one I'm the least annoyed at. This fan... you know what? I've got wood by me. I can say it. This fan has not annoyed me once. Knock wood. Every time I install a fan in here, there's always some little nitpicking that I always, have. This one just hasn't given me that. And this is old Quorum. This was, this fan was made like the first or second year that they had the name Quorum, and I'd still say that they're doing good now. I feel like they were always a really great sort of mid-upper range sort of brand, somewhere around there. And some of the extra steps they take by plating the screws and the motors and the ball, like the hanger balls, I just feel like there's a bunch of things that they do very, very well. And I really want to continue watching them grow. Even though they've already grown so much, there's always room for improvement, and they're going to keep improving. And up next is Hinkley. Hinkley has introduced, I want to say about 15 new products this year. A bunch of really great designs, a couple good additions to the Regency collection. Mostly the Chet comes to mind there, a really great looking fan. And then, of course, some of the other ceiling fans, some of the more fancy ones, like I think the Facet is what it's called, which is super cool. It's like a hexagonal design with 3 blades. Super, super cool. Absolutely love it. I love the brass and clear combo. That's just filling the industry right now. Fanimation had something, Home Enhancements had something, and now Hinkley does. I'm just really, really loving that combination. The quality on the products, as always, is excellent, and all their other designs for this year were great, too. Overall, I just think Hinkley's always, going to be one of my favorites. As long as they don't follow the route of some other companies where they hit the top and then they crash, they just slowly start cheapening. But I honestly do not think Hinkley's going to do that. I think these guys are going to have quality for years to come, and that makes me very, very happy. Up next, we can talk about Royal Pacific for about 20 seconds. That's what I'm giving them. They've introduced, I think, like 1 or 2 new designs. Nothing terrific, nothing totally crazy. Just a few basic fans. They've just got a real sort of basic lineup, really good for builders and that sort of stuff. And that's really about all I can say about them. I don't think the products are terrible quality. They're just, they're sort of lower mid-range is where I would place them. Nothing too special from the fan line. There really hasn't been since, you know, they had a much larger variety of fans, you know, back, you know, in the 2000s and the 90s. Up next, we can talk about Savoy. Now, Savoy this year has moved all of their fans over to the Meridian line. So for a standard ceiling fan, you've got to go to the Meridian catalog. Now they're not going to have a separate fan catalog anymore, and then they didn't even print the Fandelier catalog for this year. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Savoy does not have a fan line. They're fans in a line of lighting. They just, you know, they're sort of just there, and they're slowly getting discontinued more and more. They're getting all the names taken off of them, just being thrown in the back of the Meridian catalog. The Fandelier line is continuously growing, though, and I love that. As far as the standard fans go, I think they hit their peak in the late 2000s, early 2010s, if you want my honest opinion. And then, you know, there were some high points here and there, but I just feel like once again we're sort of just dropping back down. However, Savoy's got a great lighting line. You know, I'm not ripping on Savoy at all. It's just that they clearly just do not really care too much about the fan line, but their lighting is stunning. I really do love the Savoy line, one of my favorites. So, you know, it's not all bad. It's just a change in direction. And up next, well, yet again, another little quick moment of silence for Sunset/Concord. Back in the early 2000s, they had some really good stuff, and then they sort of just kept declining, and now they're gone. Sad, very sad. And up next is Transglobe. Transglobe has introduced a few new designs this year, a couple sort of decent looking ones. Transglobe is really just one of those brands that's, you know, it's just sort of there. I don't talk about them a whole lot. It's just, so you know, one of those brands that, because they make fans, I get the literature. And, you know, nothing is terrible. Quality isn't terrible. But, you know, I just can't really think of too many outstanding things to say. I'm not trying to say bad things, you know. I'm just saying that, you know, just nothing really sticks out to me, you know, like Hinckley or one of those other brands does. They're one of the brands that more fades into the background. And up next is Vaxel. Vaxel introduced like one or two new designs this year, nothing particular. On top of that, they have quit printing, no more print catalogs for Vaxel. They now are doing it all online on their new digital sort of catalog website they've got going on, which is a bit of a bummer. And, you know, the product line, you know, it's still about the same. You know, the fan line is kind of shrinking, the accessory line shrinking. Just nothing really too special, you know, just a line of fans there alongside a bunch of lighting as well. And yeah, up next we have Westinghouse, which just did a supplement with a couple designs. And that's all I'm going to say. Not too much special from them, in my opinion. Westinghouse just isn't really the best when it comes to lighting anymore. Hell, even back in the olden days when it came to fans, you know, like these. These, they're all right, but they had some problems. Don't even get me started on the old Westinghouse Mobile Airs. Those fans had problems. You know, you saw those with burnt up motors all the time. You know, when let's take it a bit of a detour, but I got time. So, you know, when you had like the big three, Westinghouse, Emerson, and General Electric back in the, you know, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, those were like the big three. Emerson, all around great. They were the best. GE, they were really good. They had some oscillator problems and some other things that just weren't the best. Don't even get me started on, you can't, actually you might just barely be able to see it, but the Vortelex over there, those things are kind of flimsy. Great fans, they're just flimsy. You know, they get damaged really easily. And then you had Westinghouse, which, you know, they thought they were doing all right. You know, they thought they were up there. And I mean, they were still the big three. But, you know, the quality just wasn't really good. They had a lot of flaws. Nothing too impressive. You can see above me right there. And then there, those are a couple lively airs. And those fans, when I opened one of those up, I was just not really impressed by the construction of it. It was just pretty basic. And these days, that's honestly even worse of the case, because at least back then, you know, they had some quality to them. Now there's just not much quality to it either. The Westinghouse line just is something that I look at once or twice a year and then usually just sort of leave off on its own. And finally, we have Home Enhancements, which released a supplement, finally adding some brass into their line, also adding the white finish to a couple other fans. Overall, you know, pretty good year for them. I'm really excited, you know, to keep watching them grow. I really like some of the designs they've got, and I think they're going to continue expanding and getting better. So yeah, there we have it. Those are all the sort of main brands that I want to talk about for this sort of year in review. This was not an easy year, like I said, Monte Carlo and a couple other brands, Vexel, they didn't print catalogs. Some of them, like Vexel, aren't doing it at all anymore. Really sort of an interesting year, nothing too special, nothing too crazy. It was just another year with a couple really, with a couple glimmers in it. And of course, think of it this way. It's a huge, huge, huge pile of dirt with a couple diamonds in it. And those diamonds, of course, being all the great stuff from Oxygen, and then some of the Modern Forms products, and then some of the other designs. Of course, to get to that stuff, you got to dig through everything else. But, there were a couple of really, really good things this year. But everything else was just sort of there. Nothing that really stood out to me and screamed, oh my God, amazing. And, I just feel like it was just, because of the housing market and how it goes, it was just a really rough year. Showrooms, I think, have been having a hard time this year. The Lighting Showroom Association closed down. And, I just feel like this has been a really difficult year. This, honestly, I'm sure that there's some people are going to really disagree with me here for this one. 2020 was honestly, for me, and based off of what I've seen in fan design and just the lighting industry, 2020 was a better year than this. And, that's surprising to say. In 2020, we were locked down. We were stuck at home, stuck doing Zooms, being miserable, gaining tons of weight, and just not taking care of ourselves, all that stuff. But honestly, this year, I mean, we're out doing stuff, a lot less masks now, it's a choice. But, this year, somehow this year managed to top that. I don't really know how it did. I mean, at the very beginning of the year, before everything really started to take a turn for me personally, I was already noticing how the fans, and the lighting industry it wasn't at that same point that I'd been noticing in some of the years before. And, what happens? Not every year is going to be at the top. We can't be happy. We can't be 100% every single time. And I'm hoping that when I record this same video here at the end of next year, that I will have some amazing, amazing things to say. Hopefully no whammies. Hopefully we don't lose any major companies or really major showrooms or anything like that. Hopefully 2024 can be a really, really fantastic year. And hey, get it? I said fantastic. Anyways, I sure hope you guys enjoyed watching me ramble for half an hour. I really do enjoy sort of doing these videos every once in a while. Not all the collectors, even though I'm happy to see a lot more people are actually paying more attention to some of the big brands these days. Still not as many do. I like to keep up with that. I really do enjoy it because I help people find new fans all the time. And I still feel like there is some good left in this industry. You just really got to pick through that mound of dirt to find your diamonds, And yeah, with that, I'm going to go ahead and end this video. Thank you all so much for watching once again. And I hope that 2024 is even better than this one. Goodbye.